Hi, everyone. Welcome to MASL Midweek with Michelle Gingras. I'm Michelle Gingras, and my guest today is Lucas Roque of the Baltimore Blast. I am so glad that you've taken the time. We already were talking off camera, and we've got a lot to cover. So thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Hey! You guys are second place right now in the East, so off to a pretty good start, your team in Baltimore so far. So before we dive into just, your own personal journey and maybe give fans a chance to get to know you a little bit better, tell me what your pulse is on the team this year. And I know you've obviously had some familiarity with this club. So how does this team feel different maybe from a couple years prior?
First, we have a new coach. We have a new head coach. That's different. We have another environment that it's everything new for us.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we still have a lot of older players that been in the Blast for a couple of years, but we're trying to change a lot of things, and I think it's working pretty well. Every change needs some time, and I think we're getting where we want it.
How do you find that the team, I guess, has taken to a new head coach, new systems, just a little bit, maybe just some different things than what it's been in the past? How do you feel like you've adapted so far?
I think we're being adapting pretty well. I think sometimes change come for the good.
Mm-hmm.
We needed a change. Everybody thought that as well. We talk about it, and our coach Bascom, he's bringing a lot of new stuff that we didn't had it in the past, and that everything is working fine. Everybody's enjoying the trainings, the games, even though we lost a couple of games that we shouldn't lost. It's working fine. You can see that everything is happy, everything is open for the change, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it can go in a good way.
I think there's always, when there's ever a personnel change, there's always a learning curve attached to that as well, right? Like
Yeah,
success takes time to kind of build, that chemistry takes time to build.
it
Do you
does.
find that there's renewed excitement around the team this year, just from the standpoint of, as you mentioned, not just a new head coach, but also a new environment and maybe just, I don't know, just a fresher feel?
It does feel like a fresher feel, especially because we didn't play last year.
Mm-hmm.
We
Exactly.
the Blast took a year off, and
Mm-hmm.
coming in this year with all the change, uh, with the new coach, with the new assistant coach that is a legend for here, like
Mm-hmm.
for the Baltimore Blast. Like, it's very good to have him around, and he also brought a friend of his that is be taking care of our fitness and everything. That is Sergio. I mean, it feels good. It feels
Mm-hmm.
it feels great to be back, to be here with the new atmosphere, the change,
And
everything.
correct me if I'm wrong. I think you signed a new contract in 2020, right?
Correct.
So how has your role, I know you've been a part of this team for a long time, but how has your role evolved? And now that you're, quote unquote, I mean, a veteran really on this team, how do you see yourself this season, especially?
Uh, Same as the other seasons, like everybody that comes, even the new players, we all here to help each other.
Mm-hmm.
Either you a new player or a veteran, like everybody needs help. And it's not just because I'm a veteran that I'm not gonna listen to maybe a new guy that came in and he knows the game too. You know what I mean? Like, he knows how
Mm-hmm.
to play. Because at the end, this is soccer. Everybody's playing soccer. Everybody's here to try to do the best, try to win. So we all here to help each other.
Mm-hmm. But do you find, like, as you've evolved as a veteran on this team, like, I don't know, is there anything that like you've learned over this time that's helped you to find longevity, not just in the league, but with one team specifically?
Yeah,
Like keys to success for you that
that's
that
it.
you've learned over the years?
Is to win a couple of championships
That helps.
that really help, and just to you got to take care of yourself. Your body. You got to always be ready, especially
Yeah.
mentally. And
You mentioned that, and that's a good point because you've faced some real adversity throughout your career, especially when it comes to, tearing your ACL twice, I believe, right? Early on in your career and then a little bit later on as well. So I want to talk about that a little bit more when we go back and kind of talk more about, your history and how you got to where you are. But just on a surface level, to go through that injury, I mean, that is a gruesome injury twice. And then to have to recover from that, like, what did you learn about yourself during those recoveries? And I mean, and maybe just even about your own resiliency and what you had in you.
It taught me a lot. Like when I done it first, everything was new, so I didn't know what I was gonna have to go through, like what I had to do to get back. But I knew I was coming back. The second time, it was even tougher, because I knew already everything that I was gonna have to go through, and it was mentally tougher too, because I didn't know if I wanted to come back, because I don't want to go through again, But I guess with that, I had a lot of help, especially from my teammates from up here, and they always made me think positive. They never let me down. They never let me, like, stay down. Like, maybe it was a good thing that was through the season, because I was close to them. They were so close to me. They would come to stay with me all the time. They would pick me up every day, and they make sure I was coming back.
I was gonna say, without that support, do you think you would be where you are in the same way, or maybe been able to come back and be so successful? I mean, you're off to a great start this year, for example. I mean, do you attribute any of that to the support that they gave you and knowing that they had your back?
Yes, of course, of course. They made a big part of it. Uh, I don't know what to tell you. Like, maybe yes, maybe no, but
Right, it's hard to say.
they were there. It helped a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was a big part of it. And I came back. I tore my ACL. I took a season off. I came back the following season. Unfortunately, we had to stop because of COVID. And since that, I took another year off because the Baltimore didn't come back. I didn't want to play for any other team. So
what was that? Yeah. So obviously you're rehabbing, you're not, you had to go through the mental battle of like not even being sure if you wanted to come back in the first place. Right. And then you decide, okay, yes, I can still do this. I can get back to this level. Then you're ready to come back. And then COVID obviously happens, which is something completely out of everyone's control. And Baltimore takes a year. Like, what was that process like for you? How did you pass the time and kind of process all of that?
Like you said, it was just big surprise for everyone. Nobody expected. Nobody knew how long you were going to stay off. Nobody knew anything. Like, when I was up here, I had to go back to Florida until we find out that if I was coming back, or if the season was going to end or not. Then it ended. And then I didn't come back next year, but I stayed playing. Like, I was always playing down in South Florida. I was, to tell you the truth, I didn't play, I think, indoor for years. Like, I didn't play, since the season stopped. I didn't play any indoor soccer, but I was always playing, like, foot volley. I was playing soccer, and that kept me going. And when the time came for this year to come back, I was ready.
So let's talk a little bit about your foot volley journey and your beach soccer journey, because, and correct me if I'm wrong, but so did you play for Team USA for both of those teams? So,
correct.
Okay, so let's start with foot volley. So you go back to Brazil. Okay, so you come to the United States, you go back to Brazil, you try to play outdoor, right? And then I believe you get injured, right? You tear your ACL.
No, I tore my ACL when I came back to the United States, because
When you had come, okay.
I was playing in college down in South Florida.
Okay.
I played college, and then my first season, we had played 10 games, I think. So, and I got hurt in practice, and my season was over.
Okay. So then when did foot volley come into it? Because I feel like I read something that you said maybe at one point you weren't sure if you were going to be able to play outdoor again. You didn't really know what the grand picture looked like for yourself. So
But
how did you get involved in football?
actually, I started playing football young too, because when I was around 14, it was in South Florida as well.
Okay.
Had this group of Brazilian kids, and we were always out and playing, going to the beach and all this stuff. And that's where football is starting to show up, like in all Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
We had a couple of guys that was just that came from Brazil, and they introduced the sport to us because I didn't know when I was back in Brazil. So we started playing football, and everybody fell in love with the sport because it's such an amazing sport.
Mm-hmm.
So we started playing when we were young, and then, but it wasn't my real thing. It was because I always wanted to play soccer.
Mm.
Football was just for fun, and it is until today. But I would leave it to the side, like play it only on the weekends and stuff like that, and focus more on soccer. Then I went to Spain, went to Brazil, and when I came back, I wasn't much into soccer no more. I was playing in college, but it was not my, like my first option. I was just playing so I could go to school.
Mm.
So I decided to play more foot volley and was focused a lot in foot volley. Played in foot volley like almost every day. And by then, foot volley in South Florida had grew up a lot. You see a lot more people playing. Like you go to the beach, you see people playing. So that's how I got myself involved more and more to foot volley.
So where did Team USA come into this though? Because there's a difference between like, oh, it was something fun I did on the weekends, and it was always just something that I was able to be good at and have fun with, to being part of
Yeah,
obviously a team representing your country. So how did that happen?
yeah. There's this guy back in South Florida that he started the Foot Volley Federation. So he wanted to take a little more professional, I guess. And so he started doing like tournaments. He got sponsored. Like he would sponsor the best players to go. Like he did tournaments all over the United States.
Mm.
And I guess they start seeing like which players do better and start calling the players to represent the U.S. And at the time I was doing good. They did a qualifier and for the Olympics in Brazil because we had a foot volley demonstration
Mm.
to go to the Olympics. They were trying to get foot volley in the Olympics, so they needed a U.S. team to represent the U.S. And so we had the qualifiers, and me and my partner we won the qualifiers. So we ended up going 2016 to Brazil to represent the U.S.
So, I mean, lots of questions for that, because obviously you were born in Brazil. So for you, that must have been such a full circle moment
Oh yeah,
to be able to participate in the Olympics in Brazil. I mean, what was that experience like for you? And just like Brazilian culture is so rich with music, and there's just so much richness to that culture in general, and the celebrations and everything. Like, I'd have to imagine it was just so special to be part of all of that there.
oh yes, it was very special. I think just by uh, being an Olympic event, that makes it even more special. It don't
Mhm.
matter where it was special. Being in my home birth, it was even special because the culture, like the people, it's just everything was good. Everything was great. It was a great experience.
Do you feel like you were embraced there? Like, even though
Yeah,
obviously you spent most of your life in America, like, do you feel like when you went back, like there was this piece of you that was
oh,
connected, obviously?
definitely, definitely. No doubt
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, so you do foot volley for a while, and you said something earlier that was kind of interesting. Like, you said when you were in college playing soccer, you had kind of like, I don't know, maybe you were thinking you were kind of over soccer, or you weren't feeling as passionate. What do you think was the switch at the time, or do you think you were just going through maybe a phase that you didn't think that soccer was going to be your future? What do you
Yeah,
think?
I think to tell you the truth, I think I got a little tired of it because I played it
Sure.
so whole life,
Yeah.
and then when I was back in Brazil, a lot of stuff happened that when I got back here, I was like, I'm just done with it. Like I don't want to
Hmm.
get my hopes up no more. And
Sure.
Nothing happens like happened in Brazil. So I was like, but I gave it a try. I still gave it a try because I still went to college.
Yeah.
But it was more to get a free education, to into my life. And then when my injury came in college, when the ACL came, then I was definitely sure that I was over with soccer. You know what I mean? I was like, no, now I'm definitely done. I will stick to foot volley until the indoor appear in my life.
Yeah, it's like there was another plan for you. And it's kind of interesting, right? Because maybe you had kind of reached your what you thought was your limit, right, with soccer, and
Yeah.
then you had foot volley, which was something that just allowed you to have fun. And not that there wasn't pressure, of course there was, but you got to just it was a different approach, right? Like you mentioned, not wanting to get your hopes up and being disappointed and stuff. Like you didn't think about it in the same way with foot volley, and it allowed you to just maybe get past that stage in your life where you were unsure about what soccer was going to be. Um, so then you come back and you get involved in indoor, and how did that come about? How were you approached for that? And take
I,
me through that.
that happened because of foot volley as well. I was in a tournament in Virginia Beach, and Adriano dos Santos, that
Mm-hmm.
played here in Baltimore, he went there too. He was playing the tournament, and he was in the Blast already. So I knew him from Miami, from South Florida, and then we met there. And he was telling me about the Blast, and I joked. I was like, "Hey, let me know when they have the tryouts. I'll come up." But I was just to say, like I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
nothing serious. So a couple of months go by later, I received a call from him inviting me to come try out for the Blast because he had talked to Danny Kelly, the coach at the time, and he wanted to see me. So at the time I was in Florida. I wasn't doing much, just playing the tournaments, the football tournaments and stuff like that. So I had the weekend off. So I was like, oh, you want to know what? I'll go. I'll see where that takes me,
Mm-hmm.
So I came to Baltimore and came to the tryout. They liked me and never left since then.
I was going to say, so what was that, 2015, right? When you first
2012.
2012. Oh my
Yes.
goodness. Okay. So what was it about Baltimore? I mean, this is like a complete, like you were in Brazil and then you were in Baltimore. I'm sorry. And then you were in Miami or South Florida. Um, I grew up in Tampa, so I'm also very familiar with like not living in cold climates.
Oh yeah.
So what drew you to Baltimore? And obviously is something that you still like because you're still there. What was it about the city?
Uh, I think it was just not much about the city because the weather it's really hard, like to.
Mm-hmm.
But the environment that they had it here, and everything that they had it here, I think that I liked it what I saw it, and I wanted to give it a chance. I wanted to see. I guess I wanted to see if I was able to like to do how I was going to do with the indoor too. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm always looking for new challenges. So
I think
I
you played every game that first season
yeah,
also, right? So were you surprised how quickly you were able to adapt to the indoor
uh,
game?
very surprised and very thankful. Like for the coach that I had, for my teammates that I had, because they helped me a lot. And even this season, I was talking to Donatelli. I was like, man, sometimes I'm still surprised, like, because when it's so hard to come to the league as a rookie,
Mm-hmm.
and my first year when I came, we had so many good players, with like really good players, and that I played it since my day one. You know what I mean? Like never
Mm-hmm.
indoor before. It was my first time playing indoor, and that the coach believed on me, and I played all my games. And I played all the games, including the final, the championship.
How how important do you think, looking back on that now, was that support for you at that time, kind of coming back into soccer? Because the last time you had played was college, right? And then
Yeah.
you went to foot volley and some beach soccer as well, right? But
Yes.
uh, how important was that support for you?
Oh, it was. it was very important because I didn't know how my body was gonna answer it, like physically and mentally, because it's very hard when you're coming from an injury like that. Like playing foot volley, it's all right. You don't have any contact, like you two, everything's fine. But indoor, it's so rough, like everything rougher. Like, and having the guys backing me up, teaching me the game, having a lot of patience with me, like their support was the main thing.
So these chats always fly by. We try to keep them to around 20 minutes. We're already over 20 minutes. And I want to first, though, before we go, I just want to ask you about your tattoos because you
Oh,
have lots of them.
yeah, a couple.
Do they all tell stories? Are these random? What
um,
was,
like I like say I do what I like, I see something
Okay.
that I like. I go to my tattoo artist. I have the same tattoo artist for 10 years already. That's the only guy that has done a tattoo on me. So I go to him, I tell him what I want, or I show him a picture. He will draw the way his style, and we.
Yeah. Did you always think that like when you were growing up, did you always think you would want tattoos? Like, was that part of?
Not that many.
Yeah.
I always wanted it, but not that many now. But now I can't stop.
Well, which one of all of them is the most or was the most painful? I mean, I have to imagine it was probably like yeah.
that that's my last one though. This one's a tough one because of the position they have to stay.
And there's not a lot of skin.
Yeah, not a lot of skin, but the stomach. I have one in my stomach as well,
Yeah.
and this one was. I could say these two were the worst ones.
Which one would you say is most meaningful to you?
My daughter's name.
That's awesome. How old is she?
Just 5.
5 years old. Oh,
Yeah,
that's great.
love her.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you know what? I'm not going to take up any more of your time. It was so awesome to get to chat with you today and get to know a little bit more about you and your background. I wish you all the best this
Thank
season.
you
You're
very
off
much.
to a great start so far. So I hope it continues for you.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Thank
Thanks
you.
so much. This is MASL Midweek with Michelle Gingras. You can catch these episodes every Wednesday right here. We'll see you next week.